Hello and welcome to another episode of the Molten Truth. We are here with another author guest today. Her name is Maria, and Maria, I am notorious for getting people's last names wrong, so I am going to step aside and let you tell our audience your last name.
Gallucci. And everybody
Gallucci.
who ever called had always messed it up. Like the spammers who called on the rotary dial phone have always messed that up.
You know, it's easy to do unless you're familiar with a certain name or certain sounds. My best friend is half Italian, half Croatian, but even at that, I
Yeah,
mean, I still mess up with some of those sounds of the Italian names. So I appreciate you letting me off the hook there, because seriously, I can't tell you how many times I have butchered my guests' names, and I'm trying to learn to do better.
I know. I do that often.
So we're really interested in speaking with you today, especially you were telling me a little bit before our episode started that this is your first book that you've written, but it's already a #1 bestseller.
Yes, it sure is. So it reached the top new release within like 24 hours. And then I've been holding the number one bestseller for it as well. So it's been very
Amazing.
exciting.
It's like an author's dream come true, and so few of us, I think, really get that level of success right out the gate like that. So
I know. I was so
amazing.
excited because when my audio one came out, I had to compete against. So I've gotten at number one in all the books, the hardback, the best or the paperback, the Kindle, and then the audio. But the one who I was like competing against with the audio was Michael J. Fox, and I'm like, there is no way that I'm going to beat him as the number one, and I did. It was awesome.
That
It
is
was short lived, of course,
amazing.
but it was awesome.
So, sure, yeah, star power. I mean, he's such an amazing person, and everything he's been through in his life. Um, and just the star power even before that. So
Exactly.
stiff
Yes, I was
competition.
honored. I know. I know. When I saw that, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's no way.
Oh, that's amazing though. Um, so before we get too deep in, because Swiss cheese memory, I will forget to ask if I don't ask now. Do you have a website?
I do. So it's galluccihomes.com for the real estate, and then the book is raisedinsilience.com, the name
Okay.
of the title.
So you have two websites. Okay, so
Yeah.
Raised in Silence, which brings us to the story about your book. So how did you come about writing this book? Tell us a little bit about what led to all this.
So it's 15 years in the making. And I always thought that I wanted to make people, because my parents are deaf, so I'm a child of deaf adults. And so I'm a CODA. And so seeing them struggle with communication barriers and accessibility and things like that as a child, and it made me feel like I need to make sure that no one feels like an outcast or like an outsider. And so they just really want to feel seen and heard. And so I thought I'm going to write the book about how you can make people feel included instead of like an outsider, and how people can have accessibility. So in the book, it's got tips and of how to do things and how to, because it's not just for the deaf and hard of hearing community, it's for all communities that feel like
I
where
see.
that feel different and where they want to belong.
Sure. Now, it's very interesting. I know just a teeny bit about the deaf community just because of the interactions I've had in my life. And one thing, and to correct me if I'm wrong, but the deaf community is a super close knit community.
It
That's,
is. It's
yeah.
very, yeah.
I
So
mean,
it's,
you
it's
guys
very,
watch
very, very
out for
close
each
knit.
other, and yeah, everyone kind of knows who each other is. And there's also an element of maybe they don't let someone in unless there's a specific reason to. And I'm sure that's for good protection reasons, but
Yeah, exactly. No, so we've always been very close, and a lot of my best friends are actually in the deaf community. And so for me, I was raised that way, and so ASL is my first language, so it's what I've always known. So I've always known the culture of it, and no, we've always been a very tight community, and that's how it is. I think not just here in Colorado, but everywhere.
yeah. So were did your parents like become deaf at some point in their life where they had been hearing before, or were they born without hearing loss? Am I allowed to ask that? I don't want
Oh
to
yeah,
be rude.
no, absolutely. Yeah. So my dad was born deaf, and then my mom became deaf at 9 months when she had the chicken pox. I think it was the chicken pox and the mumps, or the measles and the mumps at the same time at 9 months. So it blew out her eardrum.
Oh
And so
boy.
yeah, and my dad, we don't know if we have the hereditary gene because he was born deaf, but there's six of us kids and we're all hearing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And what a challenge for them as parents. I can only imagine, you
Oh,
know, them as parents and you as children, like,
wild. Because
yeah,
they couldn't hear.
I'm
I
trying to
always joke.
imagine that situation where you as a child, I mean, did you even realize that you had a voice? Like, because you were so
Oh,
used to be I mean,
we're so
what
used
did
to
you think?
signing. Yeah, well, I always told my parents that the only reason why you have six kids is because you can't hear us because we're all crazy and wild. And so, but for me, my sister, she hadn't talked until she was like 7 years old. And so they thought that she had like a speech impediment, which I do because I stutter and I always have since I was a kid. But so she would always whisper to me or sign to me, and I would actually talk to the teachers for her. So it
Oh,
took her a while to feel comfortable using her voice.
yeah, because it wasn't her, I would say her mother tongue. It wasn't, what she grew up hearing because that couldn't be the case.
Exactly. It wasn't what she was used to.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. So singing probably didn't happen either, I'm guessing.
Well, we're saying, I think it kind of did the opposite with the CODAs because which is a child of deaf adults, but is because we were able to be loud and crazy. So we would actually like grab the microphone, and sing because our parents couldn't hear, and all that we were known as the fun house because all of our friends would come over because we were able to play music loud or things like that. But one thing I did notice because I went to happy hour with my friend the other day who's deaf, and she had sat me like on my back was towards the door, and I've never since I was a child been able to sit with my back to the door because I don't know who can come in, and my parents didn't either because they can't hear. And so when I switched myself, she's like, oh, that's a coda thing, isn't it? And because her kids did it too, I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. But it was just because we can't see or hear anybody from behind me, so I've always done that since I was a kid.
Well, and that makes sense on multiple levels. Um, Unrelated but interesting kind of comparison, and I can see where you would want to do that as someone who didn't hear. It's just a good safety thing because they always tell us, in this world that we live in, you always want to sit someplace where you can see the door so that if something were to happen, you would have an exit strategy. And so
Exactly.
if you can't hear something coming, even more so, you'd want to have that visual so you can react and get to safety.
Yeah, exactly. And my dad always teased because he always because we're Italian, so he always wanted to be in the mafia. So he always told me never turn your back because you don't know if a person's coming to get you.
Yeah. I talk a lot with my hands, and so
Oh,
I'm
I
thinking
always
about the
do.
Italian thing. I'm thinking it's an easy shoe, and you might assume that someone was sign language because there's a joke about you'd have to tie your hands so you wouldn't talk with them.
Yeah, exactly. And then when I'm in like closings for the real estate, I always tend to like sign or because I always talk with my hands and I try to jump in and sign. So I literally have to like sit on my hands to make sure I don't interrupt the interpreter or anything.
Okay, so do you, with your real estate business, do you primarily are a lot of your clientele deaf, or is that just kind of the exception and you've just got to control yourself because of habit?
Yeah, it's that's a specialty. So I deal with all different kinds of clients, but I specialize in the deaf and hard of hearing community.
It makes sense. I mean, you're
Yeah,
a natural for it.
yeah.
So
So
why not? I mean, what a
ASL
wonderful
differences.
service for them.
Yeah, exactly. And then I developed ASL Realty, which is a nationwide one where I can find where I connect ASL agents with other clients nationwide, not just Colorado.
That is such a nice service for them. I'm sure they appreciate that because,
Yeah, it
you know,
helps because communication and having access to the way you communicate in any light language, I think is very, very important.
mhm, exactly. Well, and there's also a comfort level. Those of us in the speaking world, we take so much for granted.
Mhm.
And yes, there are resources. We could, find someone to do the, translation for us. But how much better to have someone who's used to the community and has that comfort level because that also makes them as their customers more comfortable. So
Exactly,
that's a
because we know their culture and we know a deaf friendly house, so I know that that's more preferable for them. When you walk in and the kitchen's open to the dining room or living room, that way they can communicate with guests or their family there.
the open floor
And that,
plans are very
yeah,
popular then.
oh, very, yeah. That way everybody can communicate with each other. And a lot of people don't know that unless you're actually in the deaf culture.
Yeah. See, I like open floor plans myself, but
Me
I
too.
never I never thought about it from a cultural standpoint that that would be desirable. It makes perfect sense now that we say that, but it wouldn't have occurred to me.
Yeah, exactly. And I've always loved open floor plans as well. And I don't know if it was because I was raised with an open floor plan or it was because of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think it's just something about that extra space. It's just like even like when you go into an RV, the RVs that are cramped but are just miserable, but you go into an RV that has plenty of open space, it just you take a deep breath and you go, "Oh, I can relax here." And I think it's the same
Exactly.
open floor house is that you have that we're designed to be in open air. I mean, look at the great outdoors. It's
Yeah,
just
exactly. It's not supposed to be confined or like closed off.
exactly, exactly. Not to mention air movement. I used to have this house and there was this wall between the kitchen and living room, and oh my goodness, the kitchen was always hot and the living room was always cold. And we were eventually knocked down that wall so we could
The
have the open floor plan. It's like,
to have
oh,
the
the
yeah,
air's
exactly.
supposed to go. My house looks better. But
Yeah, it makes such a big difference.
I could talk real estate with you all day long, but I want to talk about your book. So I've had a little bit of exposure with the deaf community just through some volunteer work I've been involved with off and on over the years. And I would imagine because it was new for me when I first was exposed to it, but there's this thing called home sign. These folks who never had official training in ASL, so they came up with their own version of sign language. Um, how do you encounter with that, or how do you react when you encounter that?
Yeah, and we have that too. We call it slang. So it's just like when you're talking and using your voice, you're using slang words and things like that. So we use that in sign language as well. Because there's actually a lot of signs that I do personally that's different than what they would teach you because that's just the way I was taught. Because
Mm.
there's like favorite and then I do favorite. So it's just a lot of different you could do a lot of different signs but the same meaning.
Mhm. So the context probably means a lot, or maybe the facial expression with that sign.
Oh, yeah, it's very important for us to read. We can read body language, facial expressions, just
Mhm.
that they're feeling in general so easy like that. That's how we communicate is through expression and feeling people's energy.
I believe it. You know, as a hearing person who's not really part of that community, um, I've been in situations where a public speaker has been deaf, or has, dual that dual language. And I remember the first time I sat down in this auditorium and I sat there and I was watching his hands and I wasn't really watching his face. And I remember I was almost like, well, I had such a headache from focusing on his hands. I later learned that I needed to like zoom out and take in the body language and the face and not focus so much on the hands. But
Exactly, and the
it's such a
expressions,
culture shock.
oh yeah, the expressions give away so much, and I think I think that's why I can read people
Mhm.
easy and then be able to connect with people because that's what our culture is. It's connection and like feeling people's energies and stuff.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, so the book was released when?
So the paperback was released in September, and then we did it in phases. And then so the most recent release was the audio, and that was just a month ago.
Very nice,
Yeah.
very nice. Um, do you have plans for additional books? Maybe is this the first of a series, or do you have other stories that you're looking to tell?
I've thought about that, and people say that I should write another. book, so I haven't decided yet, but I do have the book right now being translated in Spanish, and it's also being signed. So that's
Cool.
in the works right now. So it'll be one of the few books that are actually in sign language.
So this book is for people of the sign language community, but it's also meant to help other communities. So if you were going to talk to someone that hadn't, was of a different community, not sign language, what would be the strongest thing from your book strongest reason why they would want to read this book?
Connection and learning how to communicate with others, not just the deaf culture, but learning to communicate with others, even if you both speak English. It's just about being connection and learning how to include people, and just not letting people feel like outcast and outsiders. And that's what the book mostly is about inclusion and accessibility, and how to learn how to communicate with people better, like with leaders and things like that.
So it could have application even in the business world, then it sounds like.
Exactly, because and I have all the tips for that. And one of the stuff for a lot of leaders and business people that they don't know is that there's no accessibility for people. And I feel like when, especially for the deaf and hard of hearing community, or even Spanish people too, they just don't have the connection or the accessibility to people who can communicate in their language. And because I remember my dad never had an interpreter at his meetings for his work. And so a lot of things like that go, like, people don't think that it's necessary. Well, you can just write, or you can figure it out. And that's not how I think that's not how you make somebody feel like they belong, especially in a workspace.
I get that. And that is, at least as a young person, I remember as a teenager delivering my newspapers, and I had someone deaf on my route, and that's what I literally thought. I was like, well, he can just write me a note. I have no
Yeah.
idea now, looking back, did he know how to write? I assumed he did, but I really don't remember. But I remember thinking that.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like people are afraid of the unknown, so they don't even go there. But that's why my motto is, if you just try with somebody, like, try to help them. You don't need to know their language, but if you're just giving the effort to, like, guide them into another place, if they're lost, or anything, that just makes a huge effort on our part, and it makes a big difference to them, because they feel like they're accepted.
Absolutely. One resource I am just so happy exists is that, of course, now with the cell phones, it's even easier because if they can type, a message on their phone, but they also have the free, I think they get their cell phones for free and they have access to an interpreter. Is that right? Or am I completely
Um,
mistaken?
Yeah, I don't know about the South Sport. That'd be a good program though if they don't have that. But I know that they do get free access to an interpreter. So they have the Sourcen and Purple, and there's one more. I can't. Oh, Convo, I think is what it is. So you do have access to that. So when you call a hearing person,
Mhm.
there's a person on the other line with the TV with the deaf or hard of hearing person, and they're signing, and you just talk to them exactly the way you would talk to the person that you're speaking with.
Absolutely. And
And
I've
we
had a
didn't
few
have that back then.
conversations.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. Back then, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, it's probably been what, in the last 15, 20 years?
Yeah, we used to have TTYs is what they were called, and there was these little typewriters that would just, like, you would type back and forth, and you put your phone on there. We don't even really have landlines now. I don't even know how we would even do that.
It's a good point. Yeah, I was thinking it's probably closer to a Zoom call or a I don't know, a FaceTime maybe. I don't know. I do know that in my work day, my job that pays the bills, I occasionally get an interpreter on the line, that for someone who is deaf, and it's a very normal conversation.
Yeah, you just talk just like they're
Mhm.
there right in front of you. So
Exactly.
it's great how long or how far technology has come since I was a child.
And thank goodness for it. I mean,
Oh, I know. Because
sometimes technology is like, okay, do we need this? But in this is a case of yes, we definitely
yes,
need this.
we need this. We have to have accessibility.
Absolutely. Um, what do you think could further improve things for people who are deaf, or for those of us who interact with them? What other things do you think could happen in the future, if you had to guess or had a wish list?
I think making like having more interpreters on TV. Like I know now we're getting it on the Super Bowl and some news stations, but I think people think that they can just read the captions, and when they do that, they're not watching the show. And so if you have like an interpreter there,
Mhm.
they can actually enjoy like the music or the show instead of paying attention and having to concentrate on reading. And so I think that that can improve, which they are trying to, and they're coming a long way with that. I think that that would help a lot, just to have people be able to not think that we're fine because we have closed caption versus having somebody there signing.
I think you're spot on with that. This is a very sideways comparison, but when I go to the opera, because I enjoy opera once in a blue moon, but it's so hard to read what's going on above the stage because you focus there or you focus on the actors. It's hard to focus on both. And
Both, yeah.
so I can imagine in the world of a deaf person, if they're trying to read the scroll at the bottom of a screen while they watch, I mean, that's two different things you're trying to do at the same time. And so you miss like little clues as far as like the actions on the screen because you're so focused on the words. So I can see that.
Exactly.
And
And they just interpreted, or they have, I think it was Frozen. I have to check to make sure. And now they have it in where they're actually doing sign language. So the whole cartoon, which I'll have to find out which one it is, but I'm most positive it's Frozen, is all in ASL, which I think is amazing,
beautiful.
because so now they can watch it like a real show, and they can actually pay attention to the movie, which I think that would be, I think that one would be amazing.
That
Do
would be
more of that.
if they would do that with everything. I don't know if it's possible, but oh my goodness, if it was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would be great, just to have everybody get together and just sign.
exactly. Well, I can hear people out there groaning as I say this because AI technology, right? So if they could use AI technology, apply it to a movie that's already in existence, and just change the people's hand movements to be the sign language within a movie that's already existing. That way, if the actor doesn't know sign language, but the AI does.
But the AI does. Yeah, that's actually a good thought. I wonder. Then the whole movie can be in that.
Exactly. Just, adjust this one thing on the screen, just, yeah, I can hear a lot of people eye rolling right now.
I know. I wonder how AI technology is going to work with like ASL and things like that. Because the one thing that I think AI would take out of it would be the personal experience, and the personal like touch. I think that might like, because I think with sign language and our culture, you're very connected, and you're very like, you like the human connection, and I think that makes a big difference.
Absolutely. Yeah, there has to be borders. And even in the hearing world, you have to have certain restrictions, certain borders. There's a point where AI maybe not welcome for certain things. For me, like I had something when I was going through my pictures, they're like, you know, bring your picture to life with AI. I'm like, no. No, we don't want that because then people could pretend to be me. We're not doing that. So
Exactly.
there's a line.
Yeah, my son's like, don't do that, because then they could steal all your information. I'm like, and I guess I never thought about that until he was telling me, because I did one of those like sketches on Facebook, the little cartoon sketches that's going around. And he's like, Mom, don't do that.
Yeah, yeah. Something that looks like innocent fun sometimes. There's more things that we just don't see. We don't see that danger. It never occurs to us because we don't think that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Problem
it's
is,
just
there are
like their
people who do think
generation.
that way.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have to be so careful. So yeah, there's boundaries, and that's just for our safety. We just have to create those boundaries. Um,
Yeah.
I'm thinking back. There was this TV show I used to enjoy. It was Switched at Birth. I'm betting the sign language community absolutely loved that show, but I'm guessing.
Yeah. No, I can't remember because that was a while ago. I wonder, I
It's
should
been a long
rewatch
while.
that. Yeah. I know. I bet they would love that show. And imagine like a lot of parents, like I think there's only like 10% of parents who actually learn sign language when their children are deaf. And
Mm.
so imagine if you did like switch the child at birth and then you would have to learn all that stuff. But then when you go back, the other person would have to like
Mhm.
learn the culture all different. That might be
Absolutely.
interesting.
Absolutely. And the beauty of certain television shows and movies is they highlight those type of things. Back when I was in my 20s and I lived in Dallas, we wound up going to the movie theater to see one movie. Ended up that wasn't available. We wound up in this movie, Mr. Holland's Opus. And that was kind of the scenario. He had a son who was born hearing, but at some point in his early childhood, like before he even reached toddler, I think, his son became deaf. And so while mom, you know, kind of was in a situation where she had to learn sign language because she really wanted to communicate with her son, he was trying to follow the professional advice and not do the things. But at the end of the day, eventually he had to learn if he really wanted to connect on an emotional level with his son. So I love it when entertainment also educates us.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I 100% because I think it makes the children's feel like isolated because like if the parents don't know sign language or and you're trying to connect with your child, it's hard because
Yeah,
they're it's not their language and they can't hear, so they need to feel you and communicate with them, I think.
exactly. A bridge has to be built. They don't have the equipment. You do. Therefore, you have to build the bridge.
Exactly. It's like bridging the gaps between worlds.
Absolutely. Oh, if only it was as easy to learn a language as it is to download a program.
I know, right? I know my son went to Japan, and he was trying to learn their language, and he like was trying and trying, and it was really hard because it's hard when, especially he's 20, but it's hard as an adult to learn a new language. But he was able to get around and he loved it.
That's so good. Immersion helps to some extent, but yeah. And the earlier, I wish they wouldn't wait, and maybe they don't anymore. I'm an old woman now, but when I was in school, you didn't even begin to talk about foreign language until you were a
High school for
13,
me,
14 years old.
exactly.
I mean, even
I went
that's too
to
late, in my opinion.
Yeah, I know, and I went to a bilingual elementary school, junior high, and high school. So for me, they put me in Spanish because they wanted me to learn a third language from kindergarten. So I
Mhm.
took Spanish all the way from kindergarten to 12th grade, which is like 13 years. And I don't remember any of it because I didn't use it every day or anything like that. So I couldn't remember it. I can like pick up stuff, but so I wish I'd have stuck out with that because it would have been easy to learn. But I can't even imagine learning sign language as an adult. But it is easy and people do it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and especially if you have a reason. I do think often, I know in my case, I'm more motivated to do something if I have a specific cause, a
Hmm.
specific reason why I had to. If I had a deaf child, I believe that I would find a way. If I had to watch YouTube all the time, if I had to interact with whoever I had to interact with, I think, like that woman in that movie, I would want to interact with my child and I would make those strides. But everyone has their circumstances, their personal issues to deal with, and obstacles, and we all have to make our choices. I like to think best of people and hope that they would make that choice.
Make that choice. Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of resources out there for that to learn um, ASL and to learn different types of sign language. You can even do it online now, and there's it's getting more and more popular to where there's a lot more resources for that.
Absolutely. And there's something kind of cool about sign language, as far as even from again a safety standpoint, because not a lot of people know it, maybe a handful really. If you needed to discreetly get something accomplished, or whether it's over a distance with each other or in a dangerous situation, sign language is a really nice thing to have in your back pocket.
Exactly, yeah, and then there's a lot of signs that people teach if they are in danger, and
Mhm.
then if, like, because my sisters and my brothers, like, if we're at a place and we wanna order something, we're across the room, we could just sign to each other what we wanted, so, I mean, it comes in very handy
Exactly.
sometimes.
You're at the airport, you're in a football stadium, whatever. But yeah, I mean, how great that you don't have to scream and strain your voice. You can just say, "Hey, blah 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 blah
Hey, can
blah."
you bring this?
I have no idea if I signed anything real or not in that moment, but
Exactly.
but how cool is that to have that option? Um, it's interesting to me, and it probably goes back to just the differences in languages in general. But just the fact that there's an American sign language, there's a Spanish sign language, there's a blah 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 sign language. That sign language, even though it's a universal thing that people have that issue, that there's those differences in how they sign for the same things. Like you would think like food would be a universal across the board no matter what, or certain words should just be universal no matter where you're at. But
Yeah, and it's not that all countries have their own sign, and some even use their bodies to sign. Like it's really interesting. It's just like having an accent,
yeah,
like the people, yeah. And
yeah.
even like when we sign here, and which is ASL, even though my sign is different on certain words, for me it's just like it's because I'm from the East Coast, so I have an accent.
Which is, yeah, like, how does that happen? I mean,
Yeah.
'cause, I mean, you get the whole okay accent thing, even the slang thing, but it's funny because it's like, well, I mean, accents usually pick up because of the audio part of thing, but it's amazing that that can be the case even in a silent language.
Yeah, exactly. It's different. And then when you have your brothers and sisters or different friends that are signing, we have our own sign that you make up just like you would when you're audio. But yeah, definitely a different
Yeah.
types of sign.
I bet. Probably even the way you would tell each other jokes would be so much different. Like it'd probably lose a lot in translation, I would imagine. Just like
It's funny that
certain
you're saying
languages.
that because we were talking about this yesterday with my friend because I don't, so her kids don't get jokes a lot either, and neither do I. I never have. So everyone always says, "Are you why?" They think like I'm dingy or something. I'm like, no, I just don't get the joke. Like I was raised by deaf parents. I was raised in a deaf culture, and we didn't like joke like that. So for me, I'm like, I don't even get what you're saying. It's not funny.
Yeah. So, what would you say was the biggest challenge in being raised by deaf parents?
I think for me, watching my parents be isolated and making them feel like they're an outsider or less than just because they're deaf. And so for me, it was just seeing them feel like an outcast, and then us being made fun of because our parents were different. I think that was the hardest part.
Yeah, I would say so. If you were going to say what's the best thing or maybe the advantage of having deaf parents, what would your thoughts be on that?
I think I am so glad that I was raised in that culture because it made me learn resilience, empathy, and compassion. So I think it made me stronger as a human.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
And empathetic, I'm sure. Yeah,
mm,
very cool. If you wanted to share any one specific thing with our audience, if you wanted them to watch this interview and come away with one solid thought, what comes to your mind?
mine would be it would be my motto. Just try because you don't know what the other person is going through, and your effort to try to help and communicate with them or make them feel seen or heard can make their day and change their entire outlook of day.
Very nice. Um, Before we get down to our closing here, we do have a random question from a previous guest. Let's see if I can read my own handwriting.
I have that
Okay.
issue.
Say it's basically chicken scratch, I tell you. Okay. So the last person, and this, by the way, was a science fiction writer who submitted this question. So he asked if you could be any organism on the planet other than human, what organism would you be?
Hmm, I don't know what they're called, but they're kind of flat and they're so cute, but they're in water, but it
Sand
has a
dollars?
really no, it has a really weird name. No, they like float and they have like cute little arms and they have a cute face. I can't think of the name of it. And people have them as pets, and
They
they're
do.
like this big, but it's like a water animal. So I'd be that. But it starts with like not a plata or can't think of the name of it, but it's so cute, like an Osalawa or something like that. I don't know, but it's a
I'm gonna have to look
yeah.
that
You're gonna
up.
have to find yeah, you have to find that, but it's the cutest little thing ever.
Okay.
It's got like a cute face and it's just like flat and it just like floats like their arms are like this.
So it sounds interesting. I'm curious. I'm like, I'm probably gonna be like, oh, that's what she means. Yeah, yeah, I recognize
Yeah.
that. But right in this moment, I'm like, what is she?
If I find it, I'll send it. I'll send it to you just so you know.
I think you'll have to because I'm just like trying to picture a cute little flat thing in the ocean. First thing came to my mind was a sand dollar, so obviously I'm off track.
Too. But
They're
they
breaking.
break.
Well, true, but they're so pretty.
Yeah.
Um, and then, do you have a question for a future guest?
I do. I think mine is if someone who knew you 10 years ago saw your life today, what would surprise them the most?
Saw you today. What would surprise them most?
Yes. What would surprise them the most?
It's an interesting question because that could go so many different directions. It could go physical. It could go, you know, wow, your personality's changed. There's so many
Mhm.
different angles, sometimes even multiple. So I'll be curious to hear the
Yeah,
next
I'm
person's
curious
answer
too.
about that. So before we close down, any last thoughts that you'd like to share? Anything you'd like to tell our audience or ask our audience?
I think just having compassion and listening to others. I think that's very important. And it all starts with us, and to make someone else feel better and that they belong.
Right, I like that. So just to recap, one last reminder on your websites, both of them.
It's galluccihomes.com and raisedinsilence.com.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to end the recording and we'll chat for a little bit.